The darkness of space around Earth suddenly filled with light as thousands of alien ships appeared from nowhere. Fleet Commander Vexthara stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, looking at the small blue planet through the viewing screen. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he counted the enemy ships on his tactical display. 50,000 ships ready for battle, Commander, reported his second officer, a tall creature with gray skin and no hair. The humans have only 8,000 vessels defending their homeworld. Vexthara clicked his mandibles together, a sound that meant pleasure in his species. For 3 long years, the Zephyrian Empire had been crushing human colonies one by one. Every battle had been easier than the last. The humans fought bravely, he had to admit that much, but their weapons were weak and their ships were slow. "Send the attack signal to all battle groups," Vexthara ordered. "Today we finish what we started 3 years ago." On the human flagship, Use Defiance, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet through his own viewing screen. The enemy ships stretched across space like a deadly cloud, their dark hulls gleaming under the light of Earth's sun. Jake had been fighting these aliens since the war began, and he knew how this battle would end. "Sir, we're getting reports from all our ships," said Captain Lisa Carter over the communication system. Her destroyer squadron was positioned near. "Mars ready to make the first strike against the alien fleet. All crews are ready for battle," Jake nodded but said nothing. He had seen too many good people die in this war. Lisa was young and brave, just like all the others who had given their lives fighting an enemy they could not defeat. The aliens had better weapons, stronger shields, and faster ships. But humans had something the aliens did not understand. They had hope. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake spoke into his microphone. "Remember why we fight today? Behind us is Earth, our home, our families. No matter what happens, we make them pay for every meter of space they take." The first shots came. From the alien side, bright beams of plasma energy shot across the darkness. Striking the human ships near Mars, Lisa's destroyer took a direct hit, its shields flaring bright blue before collapsing completely. The second blast tore through the ship's hull like paper. "Lisa, report," Jake shouted into his microphone, but there was no answer. Her ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walsh sat at his station, watching the battle display with growing horror. Red dots representing human ships disappeared from the screen one by one. The aliens had learned from their previous battles against humans. They knew exactly where human weapons were weakest and how to break through human defenses. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them," Ryan reported, his voice shaking. "The alien weapons are cutting through our shields like they're not even there." Jake gripped the armrests of his command chair as another wave of human ships exploded on the viewing screen. The aliens had not just superior technology. They had studied human tactics for 3 years, learning from every battle, every defeat. They had handed to human forces on the surface of Mars. Captain Nick Torres watched the space battle from the windows of the research station. His ship, the UES Valiant, was damaged and could not join the fight. All he could do was watch as his fellow humans died trying to protect their homeworld. "They're not just beating us," Nick said to the other officers around him. "They're destroying US completely." The alien fleet moved forward like a great wave of death. Their ships fired again and again, each shot finding its target. Human ships that had served faithfully for decades were blown apart in seconds. The pride of Earth's defense fleet, massive battleships that had taken years to build, were reduced to burning wreckage. Commander Vexthara watched the battle with growing excitement. The humans were fighting as hard as they could, but it made no difference. His ships had adaptive armor that learned from each human weapon that hit it. After a few minutes, the human weapons became almost useless. "Their plasma cannons are barely scratching our hulls now," reported his weapons officer. "And their missile systems cannot penetrate our point defense networks." "Excellent," Vexthara replied. "Begin the second phase. Target their orbital defense platforms around Earth." The alien fleet split into smaller groups, each one heading toward Earth's defensive stations. These platforms had been built over many years, armed with the most powerful weapons humans could create. But as the alien ships approached, it became clear that even these mighty fortresses would not be enough. The first platform exploded after just 3 minutes of alien fire. The second lasted only slightly longer. One by one, Earth's last line of defense crumbled under the alien assault on Luna Base. The human military command center on Earth's moon, General Patricia Hayes, watched the destruction with a heavy heart. She had been a soldier for 30 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The aliens were not just winning. They were making the human military look like children playing with toys. "General, we're receiving evacuation requests from every major city on Earth," reported Major Kate Adams. "The civilian population is starting to panic," Patricia nodded grimly. "Tell them to head for the evacuation ships. Get as many people off the planet as possible." Dr. Alex Chun, the chief scientist at Luna Base, worked desperately at his computer terminal. He had been trying to find some weakness in the alien ships, some flaw in their technology that humans could exploit. But every scan, every analysis, showed the same result. The aliens were simply too advanced. "General, I'm not finding anything," Alex reported. "Their technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours. Maybe more." The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Human ships kept fighting even when their weapons did no damage. Human crews kept manning their stations even when their ships were falling apart around them. But courage alone could not overcome such a vast difference in technology. By the end of the day, the alien fleet had destroyed most of Earth's orbital defenses. Hundreds of human ships floated in space as burning wreckage. The aliens had lost fewer than a dozen vessels, and most of those were only lightly damaged. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, looking at the tactical display. Only a few thousand human ships remained, and they were scattered across the solar system. The aliens had won, and everyone knew it. "Sir," Ryan Walsh said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship." Jake nodded. "Put it on the main screen." Commander Vextara's image appeared on the viewing screen. His alien features were hard to read, but his voice carried the tone of complete victory. "Admiral Morrison," Vextara said, "you have fought bravely, but this war is over. Surrender now, and we will spare your civilian population. Continue to resist, and we will destroy every human in this system." Jake looked at the alien commander for a long moment. Around him, his crew waited for his response. Earth hung in space. Behind them, defenseless and vulnerable, the human race stood on the edge of extinction, and there seemed to be no hope left. "We need time to consider your offer," Jake finally said. Vextara clicked his mandibles. "You have 6 hours, Admiral. After that, we begin the final bombardment." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Defiance in silence. Jake looked at his crew, seeing the same defeat in their eyes that he felt in his heart. For 3 years, they had fought against impossible odds. Now, at the end, they had lost everything, but Jake Morrison did not know that somewhere in the darkness of space, help was coming. Help that would change everything. The remaining human ships limped away from Earth toward the moon, their hulls cracked and their crews exhausted. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching his damaged fleet struggle to reach Luna Base. What had once been a proud defense force was now barely 3,000 ships, most of them badly damaged. "Sir, we're getting reports from all over the system," Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walsh said, his voice tired and defeated. "The aliens are landing troops on Earth. Major cities are under attack." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. He had known this day would come, but it still felt like a punch to the stomach. Earth, humanity's home for thousands of years, was being invaded by an alien army that humans could not stop. On the surface of Earth, Major Kate Adams crouched behind the ruins of what used to be a shopping center in New York City. Alien soldiers moved through the streets, their strange weapons firing energy blasts that could cut through concrete like butter. The human soldiers fought back with everything they had, but their bullets bounced off alien armor like raindrops. "Fall back to the subway tunnels," Kate ordered her squad over the radio. "We can't fight them in the open." The alien ground forces were just as advanced as their space fleet. They wore powered armor that made them nearly invulnerable to human weapons. Their energy rifles could kill a human soldier with one shot, even through military body armor. Worst of all, they seemed to know exactly where human forces were hiding. General Patricia Hayes sat in the command center deep under Luna Base, coordinating the defense of Earth from the moon. Reports came in from every continent, and they were all the same. Human military forces were being pushed back everywhere. The aliens were not just winning. They were destroying human resistance completely. General, we're losing contact with forces in Europe, reported Colonel Maria Santos. The aliens have taken control of most communication satellites. Patricia nodded grimly. Without communications, human forces on Earth could not coordinate their defense. Each unit was fighting alone. Cut off from help and running out of supplies, Commander Vexthara watched the invasion from his flagship, pleased with how quickly human resistance was crumbling. His ground forces reported that major cities were falling within hours. The humans fought bravely, but their weapons were like toys compared to Zephyrian technology. Commander, the human fleet has retreated to their moon, reported his tactical officer. They appear to be making their final stand at the base there. Vexthara clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Perfect. We will crush them there and end this war once and for all. The alien fleet began moving toward the moon, their massive ships blocking out the stars. On Luna Base, human defenders watched the approaching enemy with growing fear. They had nowhere left to run. Captain Nick Torres sat in the pilot seat of the U.S. Valiant, finally repaired enough to fly. His ship was one of the few human vessels still capable of fighting, but he knew it would not matter. The aliens had too many ships and too much firepower. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison, came the voice over the radio. We make our stand here. Behind us is Luna Base, the last free human military installation. We will not let them take it. Without a fight, Nick gripped his controls tighter. He had joined the military to protect Earth, but now Earth was lost. All he could do was try to buy time for the civilians still evacuating from the planet. Dr. Alex Chun worked frantically in his laboratory under Luna Base, trying to find anything that might help. He had been studying captured alien technology for months, but every analysis showed the same result. The aliens were decades ahead of humans in every field of science. There has to be something, Alex muttered to himself as he examined the remains of an alien weapon, some weakness, some flaw we can exploit. But the alien technology was perfect. Their weapons were more powerful, their armor was stronger, and their ships were faster than anything humans had ever built. It was like comparing a stone knife to a laser cannon. The alien fleet reached the moon and began their attack on Luna Base. The base's defensive shields flared bright blue as energy beams struck them, but everyone knew the shields would not last long. The aliens had weapons specifically designed to break through human defenses. Shields at 70%, reported the base's chief engineer. They're dropping fast. General Patricia Hayes stood in the command center watching the battle displays with calm determination. She had been a soldier all her life, and she would die as one. But she would not make it easy for the aliens. Launch all remaining fighters, she ordered. Every ship we have left. The human fighters launched from Luna Base like angry wasps, their pilots knowing they were flying to their deaths. But they flew anyway, because that was what humans did. They fought even when they could not win. Captain Lisa Carter's sister, Lieutenant Susan Carter, piloted one of those fighters. She had watched her sister die in the first battle, and now she was ready to follow her. The alien ships were so large that her small fighter looked like a bug flying at a mountain. This is for Lisa, Susan whispered as she fired her weapons at the nearest alien ship. Her missiles struck the enemy vessel but did no visible damage. The alien ship's point defense systems locked onto her fighter and fired back, one by one. The human fighters were destroyed. Their brave pilots died trying to protect their home, but their sacrifice bought only minutes of time. On Earth, the situation was getting worse. Major Kate Adams and her squad had been forced deeper underground, hiding in subway tunnels that had become their last refuge. The aliens controlled the surface completely now, and their search teams were methodically hunting down the remaining human soldiers. Kate, "We've got alien troops moving toward our position," whispered Sergeant Ben. Murphy over the radio. "They're using some kind of scanning device." "They know we're here." Kate checked her weapon. She had 3 magazines left, enough for maybe 30 shots. Against aliens whose armor could stop tank shells, it would not be enough. "Everyone remember your training," she said to her squad. "We make them pay for every step." The aliens found them 10 minutes later. The battle in the tunnels was short and brutal. Human soldiers fought with desperate courage, but their weapons were useless against alien armor. Kate managed to kill one alien by shooting him in the face where his helmet had a weak spot, but then an energy blast from another soldier ended her fight forever. Commander Vexthara received reports from his ground forces with satisfaction. Human resistance on Earth was almost completely eliminated. The few remaining human soldiers were trapped in scattered pockets, cut off from supplies and reinforcements. "Excellent work," he told his ground commander. "Begin the final phase. Destroy their moon base and end this war." The alien fleet concentrated all their firepower on Luna Base. The base's shields collapsed under the massive bombardment, and energy beams began striking the lunar surface. Explosions rocked the underground facility as the aliens methodically destroyed every human installation. Admiral Jake Morrison felt the base shake around him as alien weapons found their targets. Emergency lights flickered in the corridors, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the tunnels. Luna Base was dying, and with it, the last hope of human resistance. "Sir, we're receiving surrender offers from several Earth cities," Ryan Walsh reported. "The civilian governments are trying to negotiate with the aliens." Jake nodded sadly. The civilians were right to try to save themselves. The military had failed to protect them, and now millions of innocent people would have to live under alien rule. Dr. Alex Chin's laboratory took a direct hit from an alien energy beam. The scientist died instantly, his life's work destroyed in seconds. With him died humanity's last hope of finding a technological solution to their problem. Captain Nick Torres made one final attack run against the alien fleet, his ship's weapons blazing. The used Valiant had served faithfully for 15 years, but now it was just another target for alien gunners. The ship exploded in a ball of fire, taking its brave crew with it. General Patricia Hayes stood in the command center as the ceiling began to crack above her. Luna Base was finished, and with it, organized human resistance in the solar system. She had done her duty, but it had not been enough. "All remaining ships, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "Luna Base is lost. Scatter and run. Try to reach the outer colonies. Warn them what's coming." The few surviving human ships broke formation and fled into deep space, their crews hoping to escape the alien fleet. Most of them would not make it far. The aliens had faster ships and better sensors. Commander Vexthara watched the last human ships disappear into the darkness with satisfaction. The war was over, and the Zephyrian Empire had won completely. Humanity was beaten, broken, and scattered, but as he stood on his bridge, looking at the conquered Earth, Vexthara did not know that human eyes were watching him from the darkness, eyes that had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. The alien fleet moved slowly toward Earth, their massive ships casting shadows across the planet's surface. Commander Vexthara stood on his bridge, watching the final preparations for the complete destruction of human civilization. His ships were in position to bombard every major city on Earth, and his ground forces had already secured the most important locations. "Commander, we are ready to begin the final bombardment," reported his weapons officer. "All human military resistance has been eliminated." Vexthara nodded with satisfaction. In just 3 years, the mighty Zephyrian Empire had crushed the humans completely. Their ships were destroyed, their bases were captured, and their soldiers were dead or hiding like animals. It had been easier than he had expected. "Begin the bombardment of the remaining human cities," he ordered. "Leave no trace of their military infrastructure." The alien ships began to charge their massive weapons, preparing to wipe out the last traces of human resistance. Energy built up in their plasma cannons, ready to turn Earth cities into smoking craters. This would be the final chapter in the short war between the Zephyrian Empire and the human race, but something was wrong. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walsh, floating in an escape pod far from Earth, was the first to notice the strange readings on his emergency scanner. He had been drifting in space for 6 hours after Luna Base was destroyed, expecting to die slowly from lack of oxygen. But now his scanner was detecting something impossible. "What is that?" he whispered to himself, looking at the display. The scanner showed massive energy signatures coming from behind the moon, signatures unlike anything he had ever seen before. On the alien flagship, the sensor operator suddenly sat up straight in his chair. "Commander, we are detecting new contacts. On the far side of the moon, multiple ships, very large." Vexthara turned to look at the tactical display. "How many ships?" "Unknown, sir. The energy signatures are very strong, but they are not matching any known human ship types." Vexthara clicked his mandibles in annoyance. "Probably civilian vessels trying to escape. Ignore them and continue the bombardment." "But the sensor operators." Voice became more urgent. "Sir, these are not civilian ships. The energy readings are off the scale. These are warships, and they are much larger than anything we have seen from the humans." Captain Nick Torres, who had somehow survived the destruction of his ship in a damaged escape pod, heard a crackling voice on his emergency radio. The signal was weak and full of static, but he could make out the words. "This is Admiral Sam Fletcher. Of the Hidden Fleet, all human forces, prepare for immediate tactical withdrawal. We are taking control of this battle." Nick could not believe what he was hearing. Admiral Fletcher had been missing for 20 years, presumed dead after his ship disappeared during a deep space mission. The Hidden Fleet was just a rumor, a story that old soldiers told in bars. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself," Nick transmitted back, his voice shaking with excitement. "Captain Torres, this is Admiral Fletcher. Get your people clear of the combat zone. We have work to do." The alien sensors began detecting more and more contacts. What had started as a few large signatures became dozens, then hundreds. The tactical display on Vexthara-S bridge began filling with red dots representing unknown ships. "Commander, we now have over 1,000 contacts," the sensor operator reported, his voice filled with confusion. "They are coming from all directions, not just behind the moon." Vexthara stared at the display in disbelief. Where had these ships come from? His intelligence officers had assured him that all human military forces were accounted for. There were no hidden fleets, no secret bases, no reserves that could threaten the Zephyrian Armada. "Scan those ships," he ordered. "I want to know what we are facing." The first ship emerged from behind the moon, and Vexthara-S 4 eyes widened in shock. It was a human vessel, but unlike any he had seen before. The ship was enormous, at least twice the size of his own flagship. Its hull was dark and sleek, covered with armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "That is impossible," Vexthara said quietly. "The humans do not have technology to build ships that large." More ships appeared, each one larger, and more advanced than the human vessels the aliens had been fighting. These were not the crude, desperate ships of Earth's defense fleet. These were warships built for conquest, armed with weapons that made the alien fleet look primitive. Admiral Sam Fletcher stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Retribution, watching the alien fleet through his viewing screen. He was an old man now, his hair white and his face lined with years of hard living, but his eyes were sharp and determined. "Communications, open a channel to all human forces in the system," he ordered. "Channel open, sir." "This is Admiral Fletcher of Shadow." "Fleet Command. All defense forces fall back to safe coordinates immediately. We will handle the situation from here." Colonel Maria Santos, who had escaped the destruction of Luna Base in a small transport ship, could not believe what she was seeing. Massive human warships were appearing everywhere, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and bristling with weapons she had never seen before. "Where did they come from?" she asked her pilot. "I don't know, ma'am," the pilot replied. "But they are definitely human ships. Look at the markings." The hidden fleet continued to emerge from concealment. Ships appeared from behind asteroids, from inside the rings of Saturn, from the dark spaces between planets. They had been hiding in the solar system for years, waiting for this moment. Commander Vextara tried to understand what was happening. His intelligence reports had been wrong. The humans had not been defeated 3 years ago. They had been hiding, preparing, building a fleet that could challenge the Zephyrian Empire. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the lead human ship," his communications officer reported. "Put it on the main screen." Admiral Fletcher's face appeared on the viewing screen, his expression calm and confident. Behind him, the bridge of his ship looked more advanced than anything the aliens had seen from human technology. "Commander Vextara," Fletcher said, his voice carrying the authority of a man who had commanded fleets for 40 years. "I am Admiral Fletcher of the United Earth Shadow Fleet. You are trespassing in human space." Vextara recovered from his shock and straightened up. "Admiral, you are outnumbered. We have 50,000 ships to your—" He paused, looking at his tactical display. The number of human ships kept growing. 120,000 ships, Fletcher finished for him, and that is just the first wave. The alien commander felt something he had not experienced in years: fear. The humans had somehow built a fleet larger than his own, and they had kept it secret for years. How was that possible? "This is impossible," Vextara said. "Our intelligence reports showed that humanity was on the verge of collapse. Your colonies were destroyed, your fleets defeated." Fletcher smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. "Your intelligence reports were exactly what we wanted you to see. Every battle you won, every colony you took, every ship you destroyed, it was all part of the plan." Dr. Alex Chun, who had somehow survived the destruction of Luna Base, listened to the conversation from a rescue ship. He could not believe what he was hearing. The defeats of the past 3 years, the loss of human colonies, the destruction of Earth's defenses. It had all been fake. "The colonies you conquered were empty," Fletcher continued. "We evacuated them months before you arrived. The ships you destroyed were mostly obsolete vessels we wanted to get rid of anyway. And the soldiers who died. Fletcher's expression became hard. "They died heroes, buying us time to prepare for this moment." Captain Nick Torres, now safely aboard one of the rescue ships, watched as more human vessels appeared. These ships were not just larger than the alien vessels. They were clearly more advanced, with sleek hulls and weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "Sir, the human ships are powering up their weapons," reported Vextara as tactical. "Officer, energy readings are unlike anything we have seen before." Vextara looked at his display again. The human fleet now outnumbered his own ships by more than 2 to 1, and they were still appearing. His mighty armada, which had seemed invincible just hours before, was now the smaller force. "All ships, prepare for combat," he ordered. "We will show these humans that the Zephyrian Empire does not retreat." Fletcher heard the order over the open channel and shook his head. "Commander, you do not understand. This is not a battle. This is an execution." The first human ship fired its weapons, and Vextara's world changed forever. The energy beam that struck his flagship was not like the weak human weapons he had been fighting. This was a weapon that could crack planets, and it tore through his ship's shields like they were made of paper. "Shields down to 30% with one shot," his engineering officer reported in panic. "Sir, their weapons are more powerful than anything in our database." More human ships opened fire, and the alien fleet began to die. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before exploded under the concentrated firepower of the human hidden fleet. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that was not just larger, but vastly more advanced. "All ships, retreat." Vextara ordered, "Fall back to the jump point." But the human ships were faster. They moved with precision and speed that made the alien vessels look clumsy. Escape routes were cut. The space around Earth became a graveyard of alien ships as the human hidden fleet continued its devastating attack. Admiral Sam Fletcher stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching his forces systematically destroy the Zephyrian armada that had seemed so powerful just hours before. Sir, we have destroyed over 15,000 enemy vessels, reported Commander Ben Murphy from his position at the tactical station. The remaining aliens are trapped between our forces and Earth's gravity well. Fletcher nodded with satisfaction. Good, open a channel to all human forces. It's time they understood what really happened here. Throughout the solar system, human survivors listened as Admiral Fletcher began to explain the truth about the war they thought they had lost. For the past 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this day. Fletcher's voice carried across all communication channels. We knew that contact with hostile alien species was inevitable, so we began the greatest deception in human history. Captain Nick Torres, now safely aboard a rescue vessel, listened with growing amazement. He had fought in dozens of battles against the aliens, watching friends die and ships explode. Had it all been part of some greater plan? The Shadow Fleet was built in secret facilities throughout the asteroid belt and beyond, Fletcher continued. While Earth's public military used older technology, our hidden shipyards were constructing vessels with capabilities the aliens could never imagine. On the alien flagship, Commander Vexthara tried to understand what he was hearing. His ship was badly damaged, its shields failing and its weapons offline. Around him, his mighty fleet was being torn apart by human weapons that seemed to come from another century of technological advancement. Sir, we're receiving detailed scans of the human vessels, his science officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief. Their armor is constructed from materials we have never seen before. It appears to be some kind of adaptive metal that becomes stronger when attacked. Vexthara stared at the data on his screen. The human ships were not just using better versions of known technology. They were using science that his people did not understand. How is this possible? Our intelligence showed that human technology was decades behind ours. Fletcher's explanation continued as the battle raged around them. Every defeat you handed us was carefully planned. We studied your tactics, your weapons, your technology. While you thought you were crushing humanity, we were learning everything about you. Colonel Maria Santos, listening from her transport ship, remembered the fall of the colony on Titan 2 years ago. She had been there when the aliens attacked, watching helplessly as human defenders were slaughtered. But now she realized that the colonists had been evacuated weeks before the attack. The defenders who died had volunteered to make the deception look real. The colonies you conquered were elaborate decoys, Fletcher revealed. We moved our real populations to hidden worlds you never knew existed. The ships you destroyed were mostly obsolete vessels we wanted you to think represented our best technology. Dr. Alex Chun, who had somehow survived the destruction of Luna Base, worked frantically at a computer terminal aboard a rescue ship. He was analyzing scans of the human hidden fleet vessels, and what he saw amazed him. These ships used quantum armor that could adapt to any weapon fired at it. After the first few shots, alien weapons became almost useless against them. Look at this, Alex said to the other survivors around him. Their hull material actually learns from each attack. By the time the aliens figure out how to hurt it, the armor has already adapted to defend against that type of weapon. The human ships moved through space with a grace that made the alien vessels look clumsy and slow. Captain Lucy Peterson commanded. The battleship UES Thunderstrike, coordinating with other human captains to execute complex battle maneuvers that the aliens could not counter. All ships execute Formation Delta 7, Lucy ordered over the tactical network. Surround the enemy flagship and cut off their escape route. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where to go and what to do. This level of coordination was only possible because they had been training together for decades. Practicing for this exact moment, Commander Vexthara watched in horror as human ships surrounded his flagship. These were not the desperate, poorly coordinated attacks he had seen from human forces during the past 3 years. This was military precision at its finest, executed by a fleet that had been preparing for war longer than he had been alive. Sir, the human weapons are using some kind of gravity manipulation, his weapons officer reported. They're not just destroying our ships, they're tearing them apart at the molecular level. The alien commander finally understood the scope of His mistake. His empire had not been fighting humanity's military. They had been fighting humanity's sacrificial pawns while the real human fleet waited in the darkness, growing stronger and learning everything about their enemy. Admiral Fletcher opened another communication channel, this one directed specifically at the alien fleet. Commander Vextara, do you understand now? Your people have been fighting shadows while we prepared our true strength. This is impossible, Vextara replied, his voice filled with desperation. No species could maintain such a deception for so long, the resources required, the coordination, the sacrifice. You underestimated human patience, Fletcher said calmly, and you underestimated human determination. We were willing to sacrifice the few to save the many. Every human who died in your attacks died knowing that their sacrifice would lead to this moment. Captain Don Rodriguez, commanding a destroyer that had somehow survived the initial alien assault, watched as the human hidden fleet demonstrated technologies that seemed like magic. Ships appeared and disappeared using some kind of advanced stealth system. Weapons fired beams of energy that could punch through alien armor like it was made of paper. How long have they been planning this? Don asked his crew. 50 years, came Fletcher's voice over the open channel, answering the question. We began preparing the day after our first contact with hostile alien life. Every human leader since then has known about the Shadow Fleet. Every military officer above a certain rank has been part of the deception. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walsh, still floating in his escape pod, watched as human fighters swarmed around alien ships like angry insects. But these were not the clumsy, outdated fighters he had piloted during the war. These fighters moved with impossible speed and agility, their AI-assisted targeting systems making every shot count. Sir, our point defense systems cannot track their fighters, reported an alien gunner. They're moving too fast and changing direction too quickly. The human fighters were piloted by men and women who had been training in secret for their entire careers. They knew every weakness of alien ship design because they had been studying captured alien technology for years. Commander Ben Murphy, coordinating the fighter attack from his carrier, watched as his pilots executed maneuvers that would have been impossible in the older human fighters. Gold Squadron, target the alien ship's engine section. Blue Squadron, take out their weapons array. The alien fleet tried to retreat, but the human ships were faster. Every escape route was blocked by vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. The aliens found themselves trapped in a carefully constructed cage, with no way out except through the human fleet. Sir, we're detecting additional human ships arriving from outside the system, reported Vexthara sensor operator. Multiple fleets all using the same advanced technology? Fletcher's voice came over the communication channel again. The Shadow Fleet was not just one fleet, Commander. We have hidden fleets throughout human space, each one equipped with technology. Decades ahead of what you faced during your invasion. Captain Lisa Carter's younger sister, Lieutenant Susan Carter, piloted one of the new human fighters. She had survived the earlier battle by pure luck, and now she was part of humanity's revenge. Her fighters' weapons could punch through alien armor that had been invulnerable to older human technology. This is for Lisa, Susan whispered as she fired at an alien cruiser. Her shots tore through the enemy ship's hull, causing massive explosions. That split the vessel in half. The battle was becoming a massacre. Alien ships that had seemed invincible hours before were being destroyed faster than their crews could abandon them. The Zephyrian Empire's mighty fleet was being reduced to burning. Wreckage by an enemy they had thought was defeated. All ships, this is Commander Vexthara, the alien leader broadcast to his remaining vessels. Retreat to the outer system. We must escape and warn the Empire. But Admiral Fletcher had anticipated this move. I'm afraid I can't let that happen. Commander, we can't have you returning to your people with information about our capabilities, at least not all of you. Human ships moved to intercept the fleeing aliens, their advanced engines allowing them to overtake vessels that had once been the fastest in the galaxy. The hunters had become the hunted, and there would be no escape for most of them. As the battle continued, it became clear that humanity had not just survived the alien invasion. They had turned it into the greatest military victory in human history, using deception, sacrifice, and patience to defeat an enemy that should have been impossible to beat. The battle around Earth was ending, but not in the way Commander Vexthara had expected 6 hours ago. His once mighty fleet of 50,000 ships was now reduced to less than 5,000 damaged vessels, scattered and trying desperately to escape the solar system. The humans who had seemed so weak and defeated were now hunting his ships like wolves chasing frightened sheep. Admiral Sam Fletcher stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the final phase of the battle unfold. His hidden fleet had performed exactly as planned, destroying the alien invasion force with minimal human losses. But this was not just about winning one battle. This was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Sir, the remaining alien ships are attempting to reach the jump point, reported Commander Ben Murphy. Should we destroy them all? Fletcher considered the question carefully. No, let some of them escape. Commander Vexthara and the few of his ships need to return to their empire with word of what happened here. Captain Nick Torres, now aboard the rescue ship, listened to the tactical communications with amazement. The human fleet was not just winning. They were choosing which aliens to let live and which to destroy. The complete reversal of power was almost impossible to believe. All human ships, this is Admiral Fletcher, came the voice over the communication system. Begin recovery operations for our people, and prepare the final revelation for our alien guests. Throughout the solar system, human ships began moving toward Earth to collect the survivors who had been hiding in escape pods and damaged vessels. But as they moved, something incredible became visible. The planets and moons that the aliens thought they had conquered were suddenly busy with activity. Captain Lucy Peterson, commanding the battleship UES Thunderstrike, smiled as she watched massive structures rise from the surface of Mars. Look at that, the mining facilities are coming online. What the aliens had thought were empty human colonies were actually the outer edges of the largest industrial operation in human history. For 50 years, humans had been building secret shipyards, research facilities, and manufacturing centers throughout the solar system and beyond. Commander Vexthara watched in growing horror as human installations appeared on every planet and moon in the system. Massive shipyards that had been hidden under planetary surfaces began launching new vessels. Industrial complexes that had been disguised as natural formations started producing weapons and equipment. This is impossible, he said to his remaining crew. How many ships do they have? His sensor operator's voice was filled with fear. Sir, I'm reading over 500,000 human vessels throughout the system, and they're still building more. Dr. Alex Chen, working frantically at his computer aboard a rescue ship, was analyzing the scope of humanity's secret operation. The numbers were staggering. Hidden shipyards on distant asteroids, underground factories on remote moons, research stations in the empty spaces between stars. They've been building this for 50 years, Alex said to Colonel Maria Santos, who was standing beside him. The entire solar system is one giant military-industrial complex. Every rock, every moon, every asteroid belt has been turned into a fortress. Admiral Fletcher opened a communication channel to the entire system, addressing both human and alien forces, citizens of Earth, members of the Hidden Fleet, and our alien visitors. Let me explain what you are seeing. The Admiral's image appeared on screens throughout the solar system, his weathered face calm and confident. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship showed technology that was clearly decades ahead of anything the aliens had encountered. For half a century, humanity has been preparing for this day. We knew that contact with hostile alien species was inevitable, so we began the greatest construction project in human history. Every human colony, every mining operation, every research station has been part of this effort. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Walsh, finally rescued from his escape pod, listened with growing awe as Fletcher explained the scope of the operation. The war that had seemed like humanity's darkest hour was actually the culmination of the greatest strategic plan ever conceived. The colonies that fell to alien attack were decoys designed to hide our real population centers. The real human colonies are hidden throughout the galaxy, protected by fleets like this one. What you have been fighting is less than 1% of humanity's true military strength. Commander Vextara felt his heart sink as he realized the full extent of his defeat. His empire had not been fighting humanity's military. They had been fighting humanity's training exercise, while the real human war machine prepared for this moment. "Sir, we're receiving reports from our scout ships," his communications officer said. "Human fleets are appearing throughout the galaxy. They have been hiding in every system we thought was empty." The scope of humanity's deception was becoming clear. For 50 years, while the Zephyrian Empire thought they were the dominant force in the galaxy, humans had been secretly colonizing hundreds of star systems and building the largest military force in galactic history. Captain Don Rodriguez, now aboard the rebuilt Mars Defense Station, watched as the hidden human colonies revealed themselves. Planets that had been marked as uninhabited on galactic charts suddenly showed massive cities and industrial complexes. The humans had been hiding in plain sight for decades. "How many people are we talking about?" Don asked the station commander. "Over 200 billion humans spread across 300 hidden colonies," came the reply. "The Earth, you know, was always just our homeworld, not our only world." Admiral Fletcher continued his explanation as human ships from across the galaxy began arriving in the solar system. Each fleet was as large and advanced as the one that had just destroyed the alien invasion force. "The technology you have witnessed today is the result of 50 years of focused research and development. While we pretended to struggle with basic spaceflight, our hidden scientists were developing quantum armor, gravity weapons, and faster-than-light drives that make your technology look primitive." Lieutenant Susan Carter, flying her advanced fighter back to its carrier, marveled at the weapons she was using. The fighter's AI could predict enemy movements before the aliens themselves knew what they were going to do. Its weapons could adjust their frequency in real time to penetrate any defense. "This is incredible," she said over the radio to her squadron leader. "How long have these fighters existed?" "The first prototypes were built 30 years ago," came the reply. "We've been improving them ever since, waiting for the day we would need them." The alien fleet that had seemed so powerful in the morning was now completely broken. Most of their ships were destroyed, their crews dead or captured. The few vessels that remained were barely functional, their crews desperate to escape and warn their empire about humanity's true strength. "Commander," Vextara made a final transmission to Admiral Fletcher. "You have won this battle, but my empire has thousands of fleets. When they learn what happened here, they will come for you with everything they have." Fletcher's response was calm and confident. "Commander, your empire has been making a fundamental mistake. You assume that this fleet represents humanity's full strength. Let me show you how wrong you are." Across the galaxy, human hidden fleets began revealing themselves. In star system after star system, massive human armadas emerged from concealment. Each fleet was equipped with the same advanced technology that had just destroyed the Zephyrian invasion force. "We currently have over 3,000 fleets of this size stationed throughout the galaxy," Fletcher explained. "Each one is capable of defeating any force your empire can send against us. We have been preparing for galactic war for 50 years. The numbers were staggering. Humanity had secretly built the largest military force in galactic history, all while pretending to be a weak, divided species barely capable of defending their homeworld." General Patricia Hayes, who had somehow survived the destruction of Luna Base, stood in the rebuilt command center watching reports come in from across the galaxy. Human fleets were revealing themselves everywhere, taking control of strategic positions that the aliens had never known were occupied. "Ma'am, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 alien species," reported her aide. "They want to negotiate terms before we attack their homeworlds." Fletcher made one final announcement to the galaxy. "To all alien species who have been watching this conflict, humanity offers you a choice. You can leave human space immediately and never return, or you can face the full might of our revealed fleets. We are no longer the weak species you thought you could conquer. We are the new dominant power in this galaxy. Commander Vexthara and his few surviving ships limped away from Earth, carrying word of humanity's incredible deception back to the Zephyrian Empire. They had come to destroy a weak, primitive species and instead had discovered the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. As the alien survivors disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Fletcher stood on his bridge looking out at Earth. The blue planet that had seemed so vulnerable that morning was now revealed as the command center of a galactic empire that had been 50 years in the making. "Sir, what are our orders?" asked Commander Murphy. Fletcher smiled. "Begin Phase 2. It's time to visit our alien neighbors and introduce ourselves properly. The age of human hiding is over." The